That's the sound of the 1951 Ford Victoria Hot Rod, fully restored and donated from the private collection of A.J. Hires. It's the 2017 Win the Classic Ford Car Raffle to support Helping Seniors of Brevard. You have to see this car. I'm Kerry Fink, and I'm inviting you to visit helpingseniors.brevard.org for full information on this exciting car raffle. That's helpingseniors.brevard.org. Stay tuned for more info on the Talk to Me radio network. We're glad that WMEL cares about the space and Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Helping Seniors, the radio arm of Helping Seniors Incorporated. The purpose of our show is to inform, educate, and connect seniors and those that care for seniors with resources. We have many wonderful resources in Brevard County, but if people don't know about them, how can they access them? So that's what we do. We talk about all these good things on this radio show. We publicize it in our newspaper columns, and we talk about it on our television shows. So it's just a win situation for everybody, I think. And I get a lot of calls from people saying that they want to know about this, they want to know about that. And it's hard to do all the people want to have done, but we do our best. And today's show, I have Ashleigh Caswell, who is the Associate Executive Director from Hibiscus Court, and Alex Larson, who is their community education person. And we're going to talk about assisted living. We're going to talk about Alzheimer's care. We're going to talk about memory care units. And we're going to talk about their virtual care program, which is it's sort of a tour. They go out and give education classes and talk about Alzheimer's and dementia and the differences between dementia and Alzheimer's. And you all remember to talk. We want to hit that too, Alex, when we're talking. We want to talk about the difference because so many people misunderstand. But the show is brought to you all through the many good graces of a lot of our sponsors, people like the Eye Institute, Dr. Lee Sheldon, Bill Johnson, elder law attorney, Ustav Hospital Systems, and I have to get their new name because they're going to rename their hospital. And it's got, I think it's Stewart Medical Care, something like that, but we'll get that brought to you all. But another one, we have a lot of the care places in Brevard County, one of which is Hibiscus Court, and Hibiscus Court is one of our sponsors, has been sponsored for a long time. And I've always had people from Hibiscus Court on the show, and I know their executive director for many, many, many years, and she's just a wonderful person. But we won't even mention her name today.
No, everybody knows her anyway.
No, we won't talk about Heidi at all.
No.
But it's fun to have you all here, and it is going to be a little different type of show today. Does this sound all right, Alex? It's
yes,
too loud.
It does.
Is it still too loud? Okay. But let's just talk about assisted living and what each can do. And both of you, let's start with you, Ashleigh. Let's just talk about some basic things, but people should talk about assisted living because a reason I think it's so important is that I just talked to one of my neighbors recently, and he has to put his wife in an Alzheimer's care unit, and he's in an assisted living facility. So it just sort of brought home to me that not everybody knows the differences. They don't know what the licenses mean. They don't know. And the other big thing, and if you two will talk about it, it's a little bit about the insurance and what kind of insurance pays for long-term care. And this is a big thing that people are starting to experience. Go ahead, Ashleigh.
So I think the biggest thing is our terminology. People say things like facility and unit, and that gives the wrong feeling to what assisted living is. It's a community. We don't use the word facility. It's the F word. No one wants to hear that they're putting their wife in a facility. But if you say, I found a good home for my wife. She's in this great community, and they're going to take care of her. That's a totally different feeling. And that's really what assisted living is about. It's not about, a cold facility where there's overhead pagers going on. It's intended to be a home-like environment where you can live in a care setting. Assisted living, there's a whole bunch in Brevard. There's, everyone has a little bit different niche. We're all different flavors. Everyone does something different than another community. I work with bunches of communities that I refer out to. because we're not the right solution for everybody, and so.
What happened, folks? I've got the gout in my darn left leg, and I had it propped up on a chair, and it's just not comfortable sitting that way. So I was trying to kick it off, and I got the chair out, and my shoe went off, and everything else. So now I always seem to cause a lot of problems with my ailments and disturb everybody. But this is talk radio, and I'm glad it's not on TV, because I don't think I'd have gotten away with it on TV. But Ashleigh, you and Alex, what would you add to what Ashleigh is saying now?
Well, I think that it's very true that there is a tremendous amount of misconception about what assisted living communities are, what they offer. There are very many here in Brevard County. There's probably well over 150 at this point in just Brevard County alone. And there are different sizes, they specialize in different things, and they represent different kinds of lifestyles. At Hibiscus Court, we really are very focused in and around all of the care that we provide, to also add to that a lot of socialization. We provide a tremendous amount of opportunity for our residents to continue taking part in things that are going on in town fine arts. It's a big part of what we try to get them involved with. So we have a lot of fun at Hibiscus Court. We find that is an extremely important part to maintain the socialization in and around all of the care that is provided, which is really what defines assisted living as a community.
Yep. But Ashleigh, you mentioned that you don't like to just say a facility, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, because I think it's important that people understand that if assisted living facilities can be operated like a home, people shouldn't feel estranged, or they should be able to adapt to the place. And that's one of the big challenges, I think, all care facilities have, is getting the resident to adapt to the way of life they have to live there.
Well, generally, before someone comes for a tour, they're anxious. They don't. They're maybe not excited about, coming to live at an assisted living. But once I've had them on a tour and I introduce them to other residents, and we, stop by the Friday Fest that's going on with live music and entertainment, maybe we sit them down at the chef's table to have, coffee and dessert with some other residents, then the fear is gone, and they realize that it's really just like living on a cruise ship. And you get all the amenities that you would get if you won the lottery, right? A chef, a chauffeur, a concierge, housekeepers, a personal nurse. So it's really just once we educate someone, then it's easy. It's not really a hard adjustment. The hardest part is actually coming for the tour.
Is doing what?
The hardest part is when you're still living at home and you're scheduling tours. Before you walk in the building, that's the hardest transition. Once you're in and I can show you what it all is, then it's not hard, because you realize that it's an improvement in your current living situation.
Are you saying it is hard to get people to accept the fact it's time to leave their house and go someplace else?
Uh-huh.
How do you get around it?
Well, a lot of times when people are coming to me, it's because they're already in a crisis point. People don't come shop for assisted living when they're well and they don't have any needs. So most of the time when people come, when they come through our doors, they already need us. So, we just kind of point out how life would be easier if someone were helping them get dressed, if someone were helping them reorder their prescriptions, if someone was, cooking and cleaning for them. That's a big thing.
I never thought about, you just mentioned ordering prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm.
In all the years that I've talked about assisted living on the radio for almost 20 years, not one time have we ever talked about the problems with getting prescription drugs for people that have some type of dementia,
mm-hmm.
or the fact that this is one of the things that an assisted living facility does. So what it points out is that no matter how many times you talk about the topic,
you don't know it all, yeah.
You don't know it all.
Yeah.
You don't know it all.
Yeah.
So, but let's go back again to Alex's title. as a community education person. What have you found as some of your greatest challenges, Alex, in getting people to maybe you have maybe a good point at this time, since we're going to talk about it, is talk about that virtual tour thing you do now in your education class. That's what I want, not the tour, but the education classes, and why it's so important to educate the community and how you go about doing that.
Well, I can tell you that the education of our resident families to the first responders in Brevard County that we're very, very involved with, and we've created programs specifically for them, as well as graduating classes of CNAs and LPNs in town. We invite and facilitate our virtual dementia tour education to large groups of folks either coming into Hibiscus Court or to go on site to wherever they are. It's a education that is so vital and so necessary and missing in really all of the lives, whether it be a professional or folks like you and I, who will, just by virtue of the exponential growth of dementias and Alzheimer's in our families and our friends, this is an education that we all really need, and we're trying very, very hard to provide that kind of education. Ashleigh can very well address exactly what that is. She's one of the very few certified trainers in this realm.
Mm-hmm. So what we do is when we have groups of people, we do what's called a virtual dementia tour, and it's a program out of Atlanta that was developed by a neurologist where we actually mimic giving you dementia for a couple minutes, and we let you walk in their shoes. And after the tour, after you've had the experience, you will look at interacting with someone who has dementia in a totally different light. And then we also add a education piece where we, talk about what dementia is and what it isn't, because lots of people think it's just normal aging. It's not. It's brain death. Dementia is brain death. There are, nobody survives Alzheimer's, and it's the only death in the top 10, it's the only cause of death in the top 10 causes of death in the U.S. that is not curable or slowable in any way. So the other big ones, cancer, heart disease, all those things, we've been able to slow them or stop them. Dementia, we can't. Alzheimer's is something that we don't have any resources to fight against effectively. But what we can do is educate everyone on how to interact with someone who has dementia, to give them successes and to give them a positive, day. And just
you're one of the very first people that I've heard use the word. Talk about delay and talk about cure and talk about. It's just nothing we really can do. And so many different organizations are afraid to admit that. And I know that many years ago when I started with the Alzheimer's program itself, it was an education for me. And we keep talking about cures, and we keep talking about how much we're going to change things. And I know that we were pouring, let's say we were pouring $1 into Alzheimer's research back 25 years ago. Today we're probably pouring $10. Yeah, $10. Not a whole lot. No. But the National Institute of Health has put something like $750 million into Alzheimer's research. And the Alzheimer's Association itself, most of the research that they do is book research. It's not hands-on research like working with test tubes like they do at the Mayo Clinic, or there's one other organization that does this. So I know there have been so many breakthroughs, they believe, in what causes Alzheimer's, maybe some of the chromosomes, some of the different things, and how you look at Alzheimer's. And I know there's research going down at Florida Institute of Technology. There's a Chinese guy down there that has done a lot of work. And I've had him on a TV and radio show years ago. But we still haven't made that breakthrough that we need to do. And until then, I believe that the programs, education programs, and what you do, Alex, out in the community are extremely important.
Yeah, because we're not going to change the life of anyone living with Alzheimer's right now. They're not going to get cured, but we can change their life experience, the environment they live in, the way people interact with them.
Joe, can I ask a question if I may?
Sure, go ahead.
What do you think about, either one of you two ladies, about all these claims about holistic healing and, we can cure your Alzheimer's? And, I listen to this stuff and I laugh because I know what it is. It's like plaque that gets on your teeth, it gets on your in your brain. But what do you think about all these people that are out there with these holistic medicines and, stay away from this and stay away from that? We can, over a 6-week period, we can cure your Alzheimer's or slow it down considerably.
Well, I think it just goes to show how much we don't know that people can actually have those claims out there. We haven't seen anything. It seems, there's always going to be snake oil salesmen.
Yep. Well, I think what Gary's talking about, and maybe Alex and Ashleigh can comment on this a little bit. Sometimes you'll see a full-page ad in a newspaper that says, "We have made this extremely breakthrough, and we have a cure." I think that's what you're talking about, right, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what you're talking about, folks. And I'll let Ashleigh and Alex both comment, but I'll say this on my part. Anytime you see some horrendous talk or comment about a breakthrough, call organizations that deal with Alzheimer's on a daily basis and ask them, because there are some medications that do help for a short period of time.
They preserve skills. Yeah, they preserve brain function. They don't cure it yet.
Right.
But yeah.
The only thing that I've really found to be of value in some of the things that you're addressing here, Joe, is the value of healthy living. And studies have shown that perhaps the types of things that they have at this point thought to identify as, having your mind and your body to be susceptible perhaps to this disease, because it is a disease, right?
Yes.
So, and there's all kinds of thoughts about how to keep yourself and your heart in a position to fight off heart disease, for example. And there are some thoughts on staying healthy and to prevent, to preserve your mind and your body and that type of thing, to keep you as healthy as humanly possible, to ward off whatever diseases. And dementia, certainly, as Ashleigh pointed out, is death of brain cells. So it is a disease that some of us get, and it's growing in a very exponential way. But as far as the disease itself, I've not seen any studies, certainly, or heard of any that have provided any kind of holistic product or service or treatment plan that can impact it once it is part of your life.
Yeah, I know that you do some of the things in your memory care unit that have been tested and they do work, and that is one of the things that we learned first on about Alzheimer's disease, was that the most you can do to keep a person calm is best. If they get excited, it exacerbates the problem itself in the brain. So, the warmth of a hand on a person's shoulder or on the back of a hand or rubbing a person's arm, it's things that show closeness, contact. You're not afraid to touch a person, not afraid to talk to them. I used to teach a class, and I said, when you look at a person, you see a face. It can be a mask. You don't know what is behind that mask. So treat the person just like you would treat anybody else. But, you can't in the care of Alzheimer's people, you can't order them to do something because it just simply doesn't work. I've seen it. I've seen it go the opposite way.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we do a lot of caregiver training, so that caregivers know how to approach people. Because if you are a well-meaning caregiver, and if you go and touch someone on the shoulder thinking you're going to provide them some comfort, and they don't know you're there, they're probably going to swing out at you.
Right.
And then they might get labeled aggressive or violent. But right now, if someone touched me on my shoulder, I would probably swing. And we do that to people with dementia all the time. We come up and we pat them on the back, or they don't know we're there and we're talking to them. So part of our education is showing people what you perceive when you have dementia, so that caregivers realize that they might not see someone who's in their periphery, And if someone with dementia can't see you, they're certainly not going to be able to, help them with their activities of daily life. So.
Okay. Let's talk. We talked about. I asked you a question about the different types of facility, and a little bit of time we have before we take a break. I'd like for both of you to talk about the fact that it's when you're placing an Alzheimer's patient in a care facility, you got to be very careful who you pick or where you put the person, because facilities like Hibiscus Court with a memory care unit have people that are trained and enough people and enough security to care for the person. Mm-hmm. You, Alex, said something about 150 care places in Brevard County. You're absolutely correct. I think there's just about 10 more. The last count I had was 160. But what's important is that I don't care how many places there are, you need to pick the person or the place that can take care of the level of dementia care needed for the person you're placing.
Mm-hmm. And for the future, not just for who they are today, but who
that's
you
important.
They're
That's
gonna
important.
Be. Right.
Yeah. Alex?
Well, it's important not only to be able to identify a community that will provide you with the care that you need and the emotional support that is important to you. And it's a very important process to go through. And when folks come to us for a tour and to learn more about not only Hibiscus Court, but for the education of what a community like ours represents to them and how it can enrich their lives, that is very, very important. And we take that very very seriously when we sit down with the family. So it's not only about the transition through their lives and the fact that we can offer the care through that progression. A lot of folks will come to live with us in one of the private apartments in the assisted part of our community, and knowing full well that they will be transitioning into our memory care community, which is called the Garden, when more support and more need becomes identified in their lives. So, in and around that, it's important that we find out what their preferences are and how we can best accommodate their lifestyle.
Okay, I agree with you 100%. And when we come back after the breaks, I'm going to ask Ashleigh to talk a little bit about something she mentioned before we went on the show, and that's about if a person goes to Hibiscus Court and Hibiscus Court thinks that you need to be someplace else, and instead of just trying to acquire your business, they're going to teach you to place where they think you are best suited. Mm-hmm. So I want Ashleigh to talk about that. But until then, stay with us because we got a bunch of other topics to cover after the break. Stay with us, folks.
It's the Talk to Me Network on AM 1510, FM 99.9, 94.7, and 100.7.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Helping Seniors, an organization which is designed to inform, educate, and connect seniors and those that care for seniors with resources in Brevard County. And we have some wonderful, wonderful resources here in Brevard County. Some of the resources are the ones that are sponsors for our radio show, and which include the Canadian Meds of Melbourne, Ear Care, Eye Care, Vitas Hospice, Aldea Today, Senior Scene Magazine, The Fountains of Melbourne, Courtney and Braswell Financial Group, and Barbara McIntyre, a Home Equity Specialist. Those are some of them. I found we've got so many sponsors, I can't mention them all every time, but there is a wonderful resource called Senior Scene Magazine, which is in Brevard County, and they publish our new 8-page newsletter, which features articles from our sponsors, which tell about different aspects of what these sponsors do. It's all designed to be an education program for you. And that's exactly what Alex's job is at Hibiscus Court. She is a community education person. And then Ashleigh, while being the
Associate Executive Director.
Associate Executive Director. It's a mouthful, I know. But she's a trainer. And it's just like I advertised Bill Johnson as the only board-certified older law attorney in Brevard County. Ashleigh and her boss, Heidi, are the only certified
virtual tour facilitators. Virtual dementia tour facilitators.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But first, I told our people on the other side of the show, so they're not going to start questioning my ability to remember. You were going to talk a little bit about when somebody comes to Hibiscus Court, when you meet with them and you say, Hibiscus Court would be a great place for you, or, I might be able to give you a couple other recommendations. Mm-hmm. How do you do that? Why do you do that?
So when families come in, generally they know nothing about assisted living. And when they come in, I'll sit down with them and go over what their needs are, what their financial, what their financial needs are, what their care needs are, what sort of lifestyle they're accustomed to, and what their personalities really, what environment their personalities would flourish in. And sometimes it's not Hibiscus. Sometimes, if someone really is a homebody and just would really like a quiet home environment, I might, refer them out to a small group home. Or, if their resources aren't enough to keep them, comfortable at Hibiscus, I'll refer them out to maybe a more affordable, assisted living.
Okay. I want to make one comment on that because I feel like I can do this. I've been associated with assisted living facilities for over almost 25 years. And one of the things I found, Ashleigh and Alex, is that places that take care of people for long-term care sometimes have a tendency to overestimate their capability to care for people. Mm-hmm. And I think this is something that you have to be extremely careful about when you're going to place your person in a community. Mm-hmm. And if it's a small group home community and you're placing a person that weighs 180 or 200 pounds, you need to ask them what kind of care do they have for the residents. If it's a 6-person home or a 3-person home, I think that you need to know how many people are going to be on duty at night or on duty during the day, because as we get older and we get more frail, we have a greater tendency to fall. Mm-hmm. And I had my rollator collapse on me one night at home here recently, and I was sitting down to talk to my wife, and my rollator just collapsed about 6 inches. But it was enough to cause me to lose my balance. I fell against the wall, banged my head and everything else. Mm. I was lucky. Mm-hmm. I was very lucky. But I realized then that I did not have the strength
to catch yourself?
To get up.
Yeah.
And that was a problem. So it made me mad at myself because I need to get back with some of my weight exercises, just arm exercises to build up impact type exercises, and not just aerobic exercise or something like that. Once we lose our muscle tone,
it's hard to get it back. Yeah.
It's hard to get it back, and I keep saying I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, but I think now that I've reached the point where I've got to concentrate on my own ability. That means take a few pounds off. That also means to get back to my weight things, and it's easier to do that because you can do it sitting in a chair watching television. Mm-hmm. You can do a lot of things if you just make up your mind you want to do it. Mm-hmm. But I want you two to talk about what we were talking about. But I think I really would like for you, Ashleigh, since you're a trainer on this virtual type tour thing, I want you to explain to our listeners a little bit more about what that is. And then, Alex, if you'll bring why it's so important for people to understand that. Okay? Go ahead, Ashleigh.
So the virtual dementia tour, like I said before, we simulate what dementia, maybe like we impact all your senses, because dementia is not just memory loss. It's not just the inability to remember what you did 5 minutes ago. Dementia changes every single sense that you have. So our tour, kind of does that to you, and then we let you experience it and walk in their shoes for a couple minutes. And it's really, it is really important, because every caregiver who comes through it leaves with a different perspective on how to help someone. Sometimes families who thought that mom was fine at home alone because she hasn't burned down the kitchen yet, they get it. And then they decide that, maybe she would be safer in a community where, she can't, cause herself, a harm accidentally. Because the first thing that you lose with dementia is safety awareness. And a lot of times that happens before there's any visible impact from dementia from the outside. So families may not even realize that mom's down a dementia path, but all of a sudden she's not driving like she used to. Maybe she's not crossing the street in crosswalks. So safety awareness is really the first thing that goes.
Yeah. I have found that people with the beginning of dementia can be pretty cagey in how they present themselves to family members or to other people. They can do a very, very good job of hiding the problem. And I'm thinking of one person in particular that both my wife and I know from our church that has done an extremely good job of hiding the fact that she does have dementia, because she gets very aggravated when her husband talks about it. But he's talked to me, and he knows she's got a problem, and he knows that I know it. But it's hard to get people to understand it. And you made a very valid point, Alex, and I would like for you to talk a little bit more about this. Dementia and Alzheimer's diseases, and there's so many different nuances. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it is a very individualized disease in some respects because of the way that it presents itself in anyone's life. Dementia, there are a lot of different kinds of dementia.
Over 80.
Yes, and Alzheimer's is probably the most commonly diagnosed. So everyone is used to the word now Alzheimer's and associate that to be what dementia is. But dementia is kind of the umbrella term. And under it can be Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, Lewy body, all kinds of different presentations of dementia. It's vitally important, which is why we are so active in terms of this virtual dementia tour education, that folks understand as much as they can about dementia, about what that disease means in terms of how our senses are compromised. Because the chances are every single one of us will come across someone in their family, someone at work, someone in their midst that has dementia. So it provides not only a better experience, as Ashleigh has pointed out, to the person who is suffering from dementia, but certainly it provides help and an ability for the family member, the caregiver, to deal with the disease themselves. One of the examples I like to give about how vision is impacted, for example. The vision of someone with dementia can become, the peripheral vision is impacted, and it starts to become very monocular, and their field of vision can change. It can be very specific. So, for example, and we talk to caregivers about this, and CNAs and nursing students, that commonly you might put a plate of food in front of someone that is suffering from dementia and come to the conclusion that they're not hungry, when in fact they're really not seeing the plate. They're really not being able to see the food on the plate. That's a common issue. It's that kind of education that impacts all of us. Ashleigh had pointed out to how folks with dementia are continually being startled. Well, this is part of the visual impact of the disease as well. If you don't address somebody head on, where they know you're there, it helps them to understand what you're saying to them right in front of them. If you come around the side of them and address them or put your hand on their shoulder to comfort them. If they don't see you coming, that can cause a real problem. It'll startle them. It'll upset them. So these are the kinds of things you come away from our education with. They're tools. And, this is the kind of thing that we are actively involved, not only to try to capture graduating students who are going to be in a clinical environment, but also, as we pointed out, first responders here in Brevard County. And we've been able to schedule all kinds of, opportunities.
Well, where do you do these trainings?
In our community. And then when we do it for first responders, we bring it to them. So at the firehouse or at the police station. And then we also do it at the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation. So we partner with them to do it as well.
I'm thinking because a lot of churches have outreach programs where they have ministers and they have people that, like in the Catholic Church, they have the Eucharistic ministers, and they're taking communion to people in their home all the time. And I can think of an extremely beneficial for you to go to these Eucharistic minister programs and
or
demonstrate.
They can come to us, yeah.
Well,
just
but
an hour.
The thing is, actually, they'll get 40, 50 of these people together for their training sessions, and you could go there at 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30?
A person, yeah.
And you could demonstrate that to them, and to think of the benefits of them going into so many different homes, because a lot of churches have tremendous outreach programs, and again, it goes all back to education and information. If we don't do a better job, and that's part of an aging plan. If we just are willing to accept the status quo, like on the show today, you've mentioned two things. The vision, the first thing I comment on already. The second thing is the vision thing. I've never heard that mentioned. No, I've never heard that mentioned in all the stuff I've done with setting up, building dementia centers and everything else. Not one time has anybody ever commented
But
on
have
the
you
fact.
experienced that, like working with people who have dementia, that sometimes that their field of vision is off to the side and monocular because they can't get their eyes to focus together?
No, I never have.
Yeah.
Actually.
And once you hit that field of vision, once you're in that spot, their face lights up. You can tell that they've connected with you, that they know that you're there. It's really pretty magical.
Yep. To me, we're gonna remain in what I call the dark ages until we decide, as a county, one of 3,027 counties in the United States of America, we're just one, that we decide that we need to do something to get our act together so that people can better understand. When you start talking about dementia, like if a person, I remember a time when I was trying to help get a man back from Mexico, where he had taken his car and driven down there, got across the border, and he had Alzheimer's, and it was a mess. We finally got him back, got the State Department involved and everything else. And this is what not a lot of nonprofits get involved in stuff like this. But the sad part about it was, all he had was a frontal lobe problem that was completely treatable with daily doses of lithium.
Right, a reversible dementia. Right.
Right. But that's why the education part is so important, as you point out, Alex.
It is. There isn't enough awareness. And what you're doing today with us is providing the awareness and helping get really the word out and to get folks thinking about it. You know, there's a tremendous amount of awareness about heart disease, for example. It's another disease, and we all seem to be educated just in general about that, about what it is and how to stay healthy and ahead of the curve, and what to do after the fact. But there really isn't much awareness about what dementia is, what it affects, and what to do about it.
And when you talk about it on the show, Ashleigh and Alex, most of the people that explain it talk about it in terms that the average listener cannot make a connection to somebody that's in his or her family. Sometimes you have to be very explicit. You have to draw the picture in an understandable manner so that the person can see for themselves what the problem really is. And I think that's so important because now this show will be on our website, helpingseniors@brevard.org, and by tomorrow it will be posted. And so if somebody wants, it can look up the title and the thing, and it'll be able to understand what's going on.
Right. And if anyone wants the virtual dementia tour or wants to take part of it, they can call our community and we can direct them, to the next available tour that we have. Our receptionist does that for us. She schedules everyone for the virtual dementia tour. So it's Hibiscus Court Assisted Living in Melbourne.
What's your phone number down there?
Phone number is 321-951-1050. And we also have a really fun Facebook page. So if anyone's on Facebook, you can look us up. We post our virtual dementia events on Facebook as well. So you can always find it there. But our Facebook page has so many fun pictures. I actually just posted Alex's picture.
Well,
I was not aware of that, Ashleigh.
Yeah, Alex's picture. Do you have our 1951 Ford Victoria hot rod on your Facebook?
I do, yeah, because I've written a couple articles for you.
I know you have. That's why I ask.
Yeah, no, that's fun. Yeah, Joe's giving away a car.
Okay. I'll let you talk about the car raffle a little bit because you've written about it. Why is it important that people think about donating for the car raffle?
Because we need to be able to have resources for our seniors. So just buying a raffle ticket and having the possibility of having that cool car in your driveway, or I guess it would need a garage. You can't put something like that in a driveway.
No, you need to put it in a garage.
Yeah, it's a great cause. Our seniors need the information from Helping Seniors. It has to happen. So.
I look where the car is posted on oldcarraffle.com.
Oh.
Oldcarraffle.com. I looked that up and I showed my wife. There was a Mustang that was posted last April, and as of yesterday, it had 1,766 hits, and our car was posted on 5 October of this year. It has already had over 700 hits.
Wow.
People looking at it. So, there
is a lot of buzz about it.
Yeah, people do like to take chances on old cars. We're getting folks, and the reason I'm saying is because we're getting people who want tickets from all over the United States, and I'm not getting that many from Melbourne, Florida. And we need to get Brevard County involved. But the important thing is, it actually said it. Nonprofits are losing many of their sources of revenue. The county has decided to eliminate funding of nonprofits in lieu of fixing roads. But I still see them planting trees and doing things like that instead of fixing the roads. The potholes are not getting fixed. But if we don't have an aging plan, and if we don't have an organization that talks about programs like Hibiscus Court does, because it would be very difficult for each of our sponsors to have a radio show or have something. You just can't do that. You just wouldn't have the resources to do it. That's why we try to get so many different sponsors so that we can talk about the resources that are available. We do it on the radio, we do it on television, we do it through the printed media. But we've talked about, we've got 4 minutes left, Ashleigh and Alex. What other point might we make on the show today? I want one of you to talk a little bit about your relationship with the Henniker Center. But what else might you say? Let's talk about Henniker Center first. Both of you? One of you?
That's
Ashleigh.
Alex's baby. Yeah.
Alex.
We've been very fortunate to partner with the Henniker Center, which is a wonderful theater in downtown Melbourne, to be able to bring our residents to a number of productions there. We have taken residents to see The Lion King, Singing in the Rain. This weekend we'll be going to see Sweeney Todd. We've been present at a couple of jazz concerts as well. And the Henniker Center feels very strongly about offering this kind of fine arts lifestyle to the seniors in Brevard County. And we certainly feel very strongly about having a well-rounded lifestyle opportunity for our residents. So part of that is educating our residents about what goes into the production of one of these types of shows. And they have been able to come to Hibiscus Court as well and to talk to our residents about, the backstory.
So it's a learning process as well as an enjoyment process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And our residents are very active in it.
Right there. That's one of the greatest things, to challenge a person's mind and being able to do your own part as much as you can to retain your memory as long as possible. You do a lot of it by how you get yourself engaged. And if you as you get older, if you want to keep learning, then you're going to do a better job of weathering your aging process.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And we have an advisory committee of residents at Hibiscus Court, and they are very instrumental in terms of the type of programs that we make available to them. And they are very active in terms of the kind of lifestyle that they're all enjoying at Hibiscus Court, because it is one big family. Our community is one big home that provides all kinds of opportunities for them. But we take them out and we bring a lot of really wonderful entertainment inside, and we have a lot of education that we do our own lunch and learn, that a number of really wonderful folks come in all different walks of education into Hibiscus Court and provide all kinds of lunch and learn experiences for them.
We had a former professional football player,
Matt Robinson,
last month, and we've had engineers from NASA. Who else we've had all sorts of fun stuff.
And these are some of the things that, the residents have told us their interest levels are involved with. So we partner with folks all over the community to come in and provide this kind of education, and it's really, really fun. They are having a good time.
Okay, with the two of you doing as much as you've evidenced today, what does that leave Heidi to do?
So we do fun stuff, and Heidi's in charge of the ship. She runs the cruise ship.
Yes.
Well, listen, I had a command of a couple of ships, so I know that it takes more than just standing on the bridge. You got to do a lot.
She'll tell you she's the chief bottle washer. So there's plenty of work to go around.
You think Heidi's really working hard?
Oh yeah, no, we all are.
Sure.
We have fun. We work hard, we play hard. So the fun is a reward for us working hard.
I think what this says, listeners, is that both Ashleigh and Alex have a very high opinion of their boss. And I happen to have that same opinion myself, because I've known Heidi for a long time, both at Hibiscus Court and both over as a member of the same church that I go to. I know her mother, I know her husband, and I know how much she cares about what she does. So that's extremely important. I want to thank both of you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll get you back again. And thank you, listeners, for listening. And stay tuned next week. I'll have Bill Johnson on and somebody else with him. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.